Welcome to the FI Newscast, your premier source for food and beverage industry news. Today is Friday, August 18th, 2023. I'm Brittany Borer, and I will be hosting today's edition, where our special guest is Sandro Roco, founder and CEO of Sanzo, a line of sparkling waters. But before I introduce this week's guest, let's cover some of the top stories from this week. Bars and restaurants saw increased sales in July as American consumers continued to spend in a surprisingly resilient U.S. economy. Overall, retail sales increased 0.7% month over month on a seasonally adjusted basis. Food service and drinking establishments saw sales increase 1.4% month over month, while grocery stores saw sales increase 0.8%. Online sales rose 1.9% during the month, which many analysts credit to Amazon Prime Day as a significant driver of the increase. Meanwhile, the Conference Board reported a 0.4% decline on its leading economic index during July. This followed a 0.7% drop in June. In total, the LEI is down 4% over the 6 months between January and July. The Conference Board noted it was the 16th consecutive month the index contracted. Despite the contraction, the report found the U.S. economy remained in a favorable growth environment. But this could change as the year moves on. What does it look like when AI teams up with fast food? Well, some customers are experiencing that firsthand, as White Castle is starting to roll out an AI-based drive-thru at 100 of its locations across the country. The burger maker teamed up with company SoundHound to create an AI chatbot of sorts to take orders at the drive-thru lane. Now, some individuals have reported positive experiences, although White Castle's VP of Marketing and Public Relations, James Richardson, has admitted to continuing challenges for developers. For example, machines can get confused over different ways a person can say their order, such as, "Give me some sliders," or "I'll have a few sliders," and so on. But challenges aside, the AI trend in fast food is not slowing down anytime soon. Companies such as Panera, Carl's Jr., and Taco Bell are investing heavily into AI technology to improve operations in delivery, food production, and other critical back-of-the-house workflows. Acquisition activity is heating up in the food industry as Aldi announced it will acquire the Winn-Dixie and Harvey's supermarket chains. The deal will include 400 locations across 5 southeastern states. Aldi said it will evaluate which locations to convert to the Aldi format, and that it was doubling down on expansion plans despite current economic conditions, and aims to reach more than 2,400 U.S. stores by the year's end. On the food service side, Brazilian steakhouse chain Fogo de Chão was acquired by Bain Capital for $1.1 billion, including debt. Prior owner Roan Capital took the 76-location business private for $560 million in 2018. Roan explored a relisting of the company, but began exploring a sale after the IPO market contracted in early 2021. This deal follows the acquisition of Pollo Tropical by Authentic Restaurant Brands earlier in August, indicating M&A demand for LATAM restaurants could be on the rise. Some food and beverage companies may be adjusting their strategies regarding socio-cultural movements. Bloomberg recently discovered that McDonald's has removed the term ESG from several of its web pages without fanfare. McDonald's did not comment on the changes, but did reaffirm its commitment to social and environmental progress. Many speculate that this behavior may be due to political backlash from some who believe companies are overreaching in their efforts to affect social and environmental issues. In addition, the Wall Street Journal reports that sales in June for retailer Target were pushed down by controversy over its Pride Month product line, but numbers did recover steadily later in July. Anheuser-Busch InBev also faced backlash following a social media promotion featuring a transgender influencer, which led to decreased sales. And finally, an Asian food trend is on the rise. Soup dumplings are a Chinese delicacy featuring a meat and vegetable filling and hot broth. The demand is growing in the industry, and a rising number of restaurants are featuring the dish, and they are opening new locations with every passing month. Companies are seeing opportunities to scale in fast casual as well as full-service establishments. It seems to be a vision realized for Yang Bin Yi, founder of Taiwanese soup dumpling empire Din Tai Fung. He has been credited for bringing soup dumplings to the global market. He passed away in March, but his legacy will clearly live on. And those are your top stories. It's time now to introduce this week's guest here on the FI Newscast, Sandro Roco, founder and CEO of beverage maker Sanzo. It's a line of Asian-inspired sparkling waters in varieties such as yuzu and mango. After spending some time in Manhattan and witnessing the explosive influence of Asian culture in America, Rocco became impassioned to create a line of flavorful Asian-influenced drinks that celebrate taste over sugar. FI's CEO and managing partner Brian Choi got a chance to chat with Sandro all about his business and the story behind it. Let's take a look.
I'm super excited to talk about Sanzo. It looks like it hits all the benchmarks that consumers are looking for. And I'm personally very excited to see more Asian F&B brands in the market today. So why don't we get started? Sandro, why don't you share a little bit about your background? And you've had a very interesting and diverse background. So why don't you share with our audience a little bit about how you came to becoming the founder of Sanzo?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been, I often tell folks that my career has been just, if you just look at it on LinkedIn, it's like I spent the first decade of my career just quite confused, and just absolutely like not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. My degree is in chemical engineering. I spent my first 3 years actually in the nuclear power industry at a nuclear power plant in kind of like rural Pennsylvania. I then had I then moved up to New York City, did 2 years on the credit derivatives trading floor at JP Morgan. So that was already kind of like one major zag. And then after that, did 5 years as first like kind of like head of growth, and then eventually chief of staff, head of strategy and whatnot for a venture-backed apparel company. And that was kind of my first foray into startups, and was pretty hooked in just this idea of being a builder. And the last in the last year, the company that I was working at, the company had gone a bit sideways, and I was kind of finding myself wondering, what I wanted to do, and how, what additional career path what career path I wanted to pursue. And unfortunately, I was really, I really enjoyed the idea of building. I just loved that environment. I felt like it was the first time in my life that I could really kind of combine, but bring my whole person to a role, like kind of combine like business and pleasure. Like this idea of work-life harmony was very much a part of this. I just really loved what I was building so much that it kind of bled into my life, and I just was very happy with that. And that was kind of juxtaposed with my own personal journey into better appreciating my Asian American identity. I was about 29 to 30 years old at the time, and really, like in my move to New York, just really seeing this awesome increase in representation of Asian American faces and voices in TV, film, music, that really resonated with me and had me wondering, like, hey, like uh, my identity here, my own personal journey, like maybe there's something I can lend my voice to. And so that in many ways was the start of the Sanzo journey.
I want to dive into kind of the concept of Sanzo. So it was started, back in 2019. What gave you the idea of the original design and the genesis of the better for you Asian beverage product?
One of the things that I was noticing was, at the time in the 2010s, a lot of, for me, packaging design, and I'll say even like cafes and QSR, full service concepts, was very heavily minimalist and focused on a lot of white space, and specifically like white. Like I think a lot about like a coffee shop in Brooklyn with white tile and a chalkboard, and like a letterboard and things like that. And that was a lot of how food and beverage brands were being packaged. And I felt like, hey, there's an opportunity here, I think, to like lend a different voice to the space. And again, it kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that Sanzo does represent flavors that I think had just not had their proper due. I wanted it to be a product that was very differentiated, that within, like half a second or less, if you were on your Instagram newsfeed or on your Instagram stories, you immediately knew that that was us. Or, a kind of test that I came up with was, does it pass the sidewalk test? And so, what I mean by that is, I would walk around the streets of New York City, and look into a store and see, basically either at the cash register or in their beverage shelf, what was there. And I wanted to be able to, to kind of pass this litmus test, where with me standing outside of the store and on the sidewalk of the street, be able to tell, from a certain distance, yeah, that's like my product. And so that informed a lot of the packaging design decisions around color, font size, the fruit illustrations and the size of that, the size of our fruit illustrations, and just how we communicated, I think, hopefully in a very simple but um, distinctive way, what we were bringing to the market.
So Sandro, tell us a little bit about the flavors. What flavor did you start with? I noticed that there's a new flavor that you just announced with a pomelo. So talk to us about the evolution of the flavors that is currently within the Sanzo portfolio.
Yeah, sure. So the first three flavors that we launched with were lychee, calamansi, which is like a Filipino lime orange hybrid, and then Alfonso mango, which is to me just like the greatest mango in the world, that's based in India. And so the genesis of the flavors was really trying to represent, both, like, as much as we could, a kind of like pan-Asian, or at least just generally trying to represent as much of the Asian diaspora as we could in our launch, and then specifically from a flavor profile perspective, trying to have flavors that had, one that was in the tardy citrus world, one that was like more sweet, bold, and then also, we just known that, flavors with more floral hints are also, gaining in popularity. And so the calamansi in the citrus world, the mango in that, bold, radiant world, and then lychee with the higher level of florality was, yeah, it was just kind of how we thought the brand could best get out of the gate. And then since then, we have launched two new flavors. Last year, we launched our yuzu. It's a Japanese lemon with some bitter notes at the end, and that kind of immediately became our number 2 bestseller. And then most recently, we launched our new pomelo grapefruit flavor, about two months ago, and that's also quickly become one of our best sellers. So what we're finding is, and this dovetails well with the rest of the category, and I think we're also starting to learn a little bit more about how to innovate in conjunction with category trends. But citrus flavors in sparkling water do tend to sell like quite well, and so we're excited to kind of like continue to release innovation that's been actually hitting like pretty well with the consumer.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll have more with Sandro Roco and Brian Choi when we come back. Let's get back into the conversation between FI's CEO and managing partner Brian Choi and Sandro Roco of Sanzo. Let's continue.
Can you tell us a little bit about who is purchasing Sanzo? Is it an Asian demographic? Is it a non-Asian demographic? Is it both? Can you share with us, like, who is the target demographic here?
Yeah, what we're finding is, we started with the Asian American, initially that Asian American consumer in mind. I wanted to make sure that, like, no matter what we did, we were, paying proper homage and just like doing well by by our Asian American community. And like, I knew we needed to win with our community in order for them to support us. And so that was always like, mission number one, was to make sure we represented our community well. But at the same time, honestly, like I also, like, this is maybe tying to my own like upbringing and my own lived experience. A lot of my friends are also outside of the Asian American community, and so I really wanted to create an experience and a product that worked for them as well, that they could relate to. Our mission as a brand is to bridge cultures, and like, yes, we wanted to do that within our Asian American community, but also wanted to step outside of that, as well as we could too. And so, actually, since our inception, and it's continued to be the case, well over 55-60% of our consumers are actually not Asian American. We obviously we have an over index um, towards Asian Americans versus, the U.S. population, as you might expect, but still like a pretty high majority of our consumers are not actually Asian American.
Can you share with us, our audience, how the growth trajectory of Sanzo? Like, you only started this in 2019, and I'm seeing you guys everywhere, on social media and shelves, and so talk to us about the growth, like the growth. And again, you don't have to go through specific figures, but just relative to some of the other brands. Like, what growth are you experiencing, or have you experienced over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, we launched the brand in 2019, but I mean, and I don't know if I'm just sandbagging this, but the first year and a half was really, I mean, literally, I was the only employee, and we were almost exclusively a direct consumer brand, especially once the pandemic hit. As a national brand, we're really only in about year two. We're really at the 18-month mark. Because in that time, yeah, we went from being just like a one region, a one Whole Foods region brand, to now we're sold in a little over 3,000 stores across the nation. Every Whole Foods, every Sprouts, a couple hundred Targets. We're sold in about 1,000 Panda Expresses, and then most recently, over the last 12 to 24 weeks, we've rolled out our first conventional partners. We're selling in every Safeway, Albertsons banner in California and Hawaii, and we just launched into every Stop and Shop in the Northeast about a month ago. And so it's been, I'd say the growth has been, we've had at least triple digit, growth every year since we've been in business. But even the growth that we've had has been pretty interesting in that it was predominantly direct to consumer in 2020. And I'll say, as of Q2 2023, we're well over 90%, retail minded. And so just even those shifts in channel strategy have been quite a lot for the brand to undertake, but it's exciting because we feel like we've now developed the real foundation, the real platform for growth. Again, we're only in about 3,000 doors, and if you look at just overall U.S., grocery MULO, we have we have a lot of room to grow in actually growing points of distribution. And that's actually going to be a major focus for us going into 2024. Is, hey, we've now gotten some really great velocity driven data points in both natural and conventional. Hey, going into next year, we can now kind of more meaningfully grow our door count.
Well, that's super exciting. When I look at you, when I look at the Nona Lims of the world, being pioneers in bringing new products to the marketplace, and it's just exciting, to see that there's a demand, from both the Asian and also the non-Asian demographic that wants these new brands because they identify with the culture, they identify with the flavors, and it's really hitting all the main points that are on trend right now. Sanzo, share with us a little bit. Give us a sneak peek of what to expect over the next 12 months at Sanzo.
Up until March 2022, up until March this year, 2023. the only way to really buy Sanzo was in a single can format. Or obviously you could buy like a 12 pack on Amazon, but our retail unit was a single can. Um, and it was great for us. It was a necessary way for us to get out of the gate, generate trial, generate initial brand awareness, just get the brand out there. But well over 90% of our category is purchased in a multi-serve format. Leading brands like LaCroix, Waterloo, Spindrift, Bubbly, they're almost exclusively purchased in a multi-serve format. And I think for maybe an average consumer, they might think, oh, that's actually like not that crazy of a leap to go from a single can to a multi-serve. But for anyone who operates heavily in this industry, that's actually a pretty massive sea change. Getting your retailers, getting your distributors on board, your co-man, like everything from soup to nuts. It can be a pretty big change. And so we really wanted to make sure that that was right and that was dialed in, and the packaging was correct and that it resonated with consumers, that our 6-pack versus other folks that are in 8-packs or 12-packs was correct. Like there's a lot of, I'm learning even now, almost like a lot of variables that weren't that intuitively to us made sense, but we still have to prove it out. And so now that that's again like gone pretty right for us this year, and one of the interesting things that we've seen is just really getting like on the ground. So like this year we activated field marketing and experiential marketing in a meaningful way, relative to the size of our brand. And specifically we have we're now the official sparkling water sponsor of the Professional Pickleball Association. And that's really allowed us to get into events like in key geographical areas where we have distribution to really build up brand awareness and velocity in areas where we're penetrating conventional. And so I'd say what's next for Sanzo is like, frankly, just a bit like more of the same, but at a higher level.
Oh, well, that's super exciting. I'm a big fan of you as a person and as an entrepreneur. The fact that you took on the Herculean task of starting a beverage brand is in a new category and being a pioneer. Congrats to all the success, and look forward to having you on maybe in 12 months to see how fast the brand has grown. So thank you so much, Sandro Roco, for being part of the Food Institute newscast, and have a great day.
You as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian Choi and Sandro Roco, for the insightful conversation. Before we go, we're going to look at what's coming up in the food industry in the coming days. On Friday, August 25th, the University of Michigan comes out with final consumer sentiment numbers for the month of August. And don't forget that the Food Institute is partnering with Cocina Sabrosa to provide live stream coverage of its food and beverage trade expo in Dallas, Texas from September 27th to the 28th. We'll have interviews with key figures in the industry as well as on-the-ground event coverage. You can go to foodinstitute.com for more information, and in an exclusive bonus, FI members can register to attend this event for free. Click on the link in the description of this newscast to find out more. And that's a wrap for this week's edition. Be sure to tune in next week. If you enjoyed the show today, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Food Institute's social media channels. We really appreciate your support. From the food and beverage industry's #1 source for data, news, trends, and insights, I'm Brittany Borer. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next week.